Hello and good afternoon everyone. Ayan, ako po. Welcome sa ating huling sesyon para sa taon na to. Napaka-exciting po ng ating hapon. Alam ko na karamihan sa inyo ay nandun na sa nasa punto na ng Christmas vacation at malamang sa mga sandaling ito ay talagang naka-vacation mode na ang inyong mga isipan. Pero bago po ang lahat, syempre dahil ito po ay ang huling episode natin for this year, magpapahinga po tayo most likely by next week, baka naka-break tayo dahil syempre magbabagong taon and kailangan natin ng enough time para mag-prepare. Ginandahan po namin ang ating episode ngayong hapon at talaga naman po napaka-exciting ng magiging guest natin for today. But of course, before anything else, huwag po natin kalimutan na i-like ang ating pong episode for today, i-share sa ating mga kasamahan, lalong-lalo na yung mga kailangan pang humabol ng work sa opisina. Ayan, para bukas sa Monday. I-share po natin yan. And of course, put in the comment section, saan po ba tayo nanonood right now? Of course, ang ating pong HR Cafe ay bukas tuwing linggo para mag-provide sa inyo ng timely news and updates, impart knowledge and experience that are value-adding and beneficial, discuss problems, issues and challenges, and provide answers and resolutions with the help of our guest resource speaker. Nandito rin po tayo para i-discuss ang mga latest technology, tools, processes, as well as industry best practices. Ang ating po HR Cafe, isa rin pong virtual job board. Kaya pwede po tayo magkaroon ng ating mga job-related announcement. Lagay nyo lang po yan sa ating comment section. And of course, isend nyo rin sa amin para man shout out namin ang inyong mga job openings. We are also here to bridge understanding between employers and employees and provide inspiration and motivation. Dahil tulad nga nasabi ko, Monday na naman bukas at kung kayo po ay naka-vacation mode na, naku, napakahirap pong pumasok. Although, pagdating naman sa opisina, most likely yan medyo relax naman ang atmosphere dahil nga sa ilang ikot na lang at tayo po ay magpapasko na. Okay. At syempre po, ang ating pong HR Cafe ay hindi mabubuo kung wala po ang ating wow quote for the week, ang ating hot HR question and HR learning for the week, important news and updates at higit sa lahat ang ating pong free training care of our guest speaker. Sino-sino ba ang ating mga cafe servers? Syempre, pinapangunahan tayo ni Coach Darwin Rivers, founder and CEO ng Philippines HR Group. Unfortunately, he would not be able to join us today, as well as si Mentor Tina Coang, Operations and HR Leader, a well-known content creator, tinainmanila.com, and yours truly, Rona Florentino, President and CEO of Oprush Social Gakers. Siyempre po, kasama din po natin si Mentor Neil Lumakad, Learning and Engagement Leader. He is also the Vice President External of Philippines HR Group. And we also have Mentor Alan Cañete, Learning and OD Consultant. Oops, napindot ko po kagad. Learning and OD Consultant. At the same time, siya po, isa rin po sa mga board members ng Philippines HR Group. Unfortunately, dahil nga sa napapalapit na Pasko, ay medyo hindi po sila makakasama today. Siyempre po, kasama din po natin ang ating iba pa po mga hosts. We have Mentor Oliver Ricalman, Mentor Boni Factor, Mentor Ray Fremista, who will also be our speaker for this afternoon. We also have Mentor Jamie Iris and Mentor Jackson Kietchon. Unfortunately, tulad nga nasabi ko, dahil palapit ng Pasko, medyo naka-break na po sila. Ayan. So, syempre, simulan na po natin with our wow quote of the week. At ang ating pong quote of the week is, the supreme quality for leadership is unquestionable integrity. Yan po ay galing kay Dwight D. Eisenhower. At dahil mag-isa po ako ngayon, di ba? Hindi po kakayanin na makipagbalik-taktakan ako sa aking 16 personalities. Pero siguro I'll just give my take para po sa ating wow quote of the week. Palagi nating sinasabi dito sa Philippines HR Group, sa mga members natin, sa lahat po ng mga HR practitioners, sa mga business owners, leaders, managers, importante ang integrity. Pag sinabi nating integrity, this is doing what is right, what is kung ano man yun naaayon sa batas, even when no one is looking. Madaling gawin ng mga bagay-bagay when someone is observing you and someone is telling you what needs to be done. Madali yung mga bagay na yun. But when no one is looking, it's very tempting sometimes to cut corners, to do shortcuts, kahit na ito ay hindi naman naaayon sa kung ano ba yung considered as acceptable, considered as legal, considered as just and fair. Ayan. So, ang isang leader kahit na walang nakatingin, isa yan sa mga kailangan na meron siya, yung integrity. And when you have integrity, the rest of the values, the rest of the competencies follow. Kasi ibig sabihin pa ikaw ay may integrity, hindi mo na kailangan pa ng ibang tao na magsabi sa'yo ng kung anong dapat gawin. Ibig sabihin yung iyong moral compass is always pointing towards the right direction. So napaka-importante niyan. Ayan. At dahil mag-isa lang ako, let me know kung ano po ang inyo pong comment about our wow quote for the week. How does this resonate with you? At huwag po natin kalimutan na ilagay po sa ating comment section where you are watching from, of course, your name, bati na rin kayo sa mga kaibigan ninyo, sa inyong mga office mates, lalong-lalo na ngayon na nalalapit na Pasko, huwag pong kalimutan na mag-hi and hello na sa inyong mga kagrupo, ka-office mate, ayan. Kung tapos na ang mga Christmas party, pasalamatan ng mga nagsayaw. Ayan. Nagsayaw, nag-perform ng Christmas party. This is your time to say thank you to them. Kahihiyan ang nakasalalay. But I do hope that you have enjoyed your Christmas party. Naku, ilang ikot na lang talaga. Pasko na at ilang tumbling na lang. Papasok na tayo ng 2025. Hello kay Grace Guevara. Yes, Merry Christmas, classmate. We also have Miss Mary Jane Retig. Hello from Binondo, Manila, si Miss Mary Jane. Ayan. So don't forget to share po yung atin pong episode for today. Samahan niyo ko. Don't make me feel lonely today. Ayan. Samahan niyo po ako sa atin pong episode for today. At syempre, kung meron po tayong wow quote for the week, syempre, meron din tayong HR question of the week. Ang annual bonus or annual increase ba ay mandatory? Naku, palagi itong tinatanong. Pwede ba akong magreklamo kasi hindi ako binigyan ng increase? Sabi sa akin, meron akong annual increase. Or bakit kami wala kami bonus? Bakit yung iba may bonus? Bakit yung kumpanya namin wala? Naku, yan po ay kailangan po natin intindihin, okay? Pag sinabi po natin mandatory or mandated, wala naman talagang, kumbaga wala tayong batas na nagmamandate na dapat ang mga empleyado ay bigyan ng annual increase or ng annual bonus. Ang mga bonuses at increases po ay considered as part ng management prerogative. Therefore, it's up to the management whether they would like to provide it or not. But here's the thing. You have to be very careful sa mga managers dyan, sa mga HR. Hindi dahil sa sinabi kong walang batas na nagmamandate ng increase or ng bonuses, ibig sabihin safe na kayo. Kasi kung ang nilagay niyo po sa kontrata ay guaranteed na magkakaroon sila ng annual increase, ibang usapan na yan. Because nilagay niyo na sa kontrata na meron silang guaranteed na annual increase, lalong-lalo kung wala kayong nilagay na mga, kumbaga, parameters kung kailan nila makukuha yan. Ibig sabihin yan, pwedeng-pwede na sabihin ni empleyado na, oy, ibigay mo sa akin ang aking annual increase. Dahil sinabi niya sa kontrata na guaranteed sila ng annual increase or ng annual bonus. Okay? So, yan po yung nating tatandaan, ha? Hello po sa mga nag-iingay sa ating comment section. Biglang biglang naging show ko na lang ito. Hello po, Reese. Hi, Reese! Happy holidays! Ayan, bakasyon na ang aking mga baby sa Aprush. So, happy holidays. We also have Rai De Gracia. Quezon City, sakto, nagkakape po ako, correct. Magandang isabay talaga yan sa episode ng HR Cafe, yung nagkakape ka habang nakikinig at natututunan kung ano ba mga latest pagdating sa mundo ng HR. Agree with the quote, everything stems from honesty and integrity in everything that we do. Yes, classmate. And also have Miss Maan Cruz, Merry Christmas din, Maan. Ako napakasaya ng mga ganitong episode, yung alam mong papalapit na ang Pasko. For some reason, yung saya talaga kahit na alam mo na, lalo na iba na meron pang pasok bukas. Kahit na may pasok bukas, okay lang kasi alam mo na ilang ikot na lang magpapasko na. Pero at the same time, nakakalungkot din kasi ilang ikot na lang, 2025 na, di ba? Ang tanong natin dyan, nasunod mo ba ang iyong New Year's resolution mo? Ayan. Okay. So, ang ating namang HR Learning of the Week, Employee Relations. Ano nga ba ang Employee Relations? Madalas nating naririnig ito. Iba pa ba ito sa Employee Engagement? Iba pa ba ito sa Labor Relations? So, Employee Relations actually refer to an organization's effort to create and maintain positive relationship with their employees. So, sa iba, ang tawag dito ay Labor Relations. But, mas pini-prefer ng mga companies kasi yung employee relations kasi pag sinabing labor relations para bang mas nakaka-highlight yung kumbaga girian between employers and employees. So para mas kumbaga acceptable siya for all parties, mas tinatawag siya na employee relations. So sa employee relations, naniniwala dito na by maintaining a positive, constructive employee relations, organizations hope to keep employees loyal and more engaged in their work, which to some extent also means that part ng employee relations is also employee engagement. Kahapon meron akong kausap, comment ang kumbaga kabatuhan ng comments kahapon sa Facebook about, pinag-uusapan namin is about involuntary servitude in the light of Article 300 which requires a 30-day rendering period. And alam mo maganda yung sinabi niya eh, yung isang seed, okay? Pag tinanim mo siya sa isang masamang or pangit na lupa, kahit pa gaano kaganda yung seed na yun, hindi siya tutubo. Kasi yung lupa is not the right environment for that seed. The same is true pagdating sa employee relations. Yung isang seed, pag tinanim mo siya sa isang lupa kung saan talagang nabibigay ko ano yung kailangan niya, nag-grow siya, lumalaki siya, yumayabong yung puno. Pero pag nilagay mo siya sa isang lupa na acidic or hindi naaakma sa kung ano bang uri ng seed yung meron kayo, ang nangyayari is hindi siya tutubo at nabubulok na lang siya. Ganon din tayo sa mga empleyado natin. While ang ating batas, at maganda rin yung sinabi niya, may mga batas tayo na nagre-require ng kung ano bang pwedeng habulin or pwedeng gawin ni employer pag si employee ay gusto nang umalis, nag-immediate resignation. But at the same time, we also have to ask ourselves, bakit nga ba nag-immediate resignation? Anong meron? At bakit natin dapat tignan yun? Ano ba yung nagiging rason for that? What's leading to that particular situation? Lalo na kung mataas ang attrition, marami kang nag-immediate resignation. What's really happening? And once you're able to figure out what's really happening and you're able to address that, dun mo ngayon marirealize kung paano mo ma-engage at makikita talaga yung mga empleyado. Okay? Ayan. So, huwag pong kalimutan na ilagay po natin sa ating comment section ang inyo pong mga comments, thoughts about our learning of the week, about our quote of the week, para naman ma-discuss po natin yan mamaya. At higit sa lahat, huwag pong kalimutan na mag-hi hello sa inyong mga kaopisina. Batiin na kagad sila ng Merry Christmas. Kung kayo po ay merong hinahabol ng mga job opening, comment section is open for you. Lagay niyo po yan sa ating comment section. Babasahin po natin yan mamaya kung ano po ba yung mga job opening natin. Okay? Isa pong paalala sa nanggagaling naman po mula sa SSS, pag kayo po ay nakatanggap ng text, kahit pang nakalagay sa text ito ay galing sa SSS, huwag pong basta-basta nagkiklik ng link. Naku, marami na po at nauuso po ngayon yung ini-spoof, yun pong mismong number or yung identity mismo ng SSS at nakakatanggap kayo ng mga text na ang nakalagay talaga ay SSS. And even sa mga banks na nangyayari ito. Pag meron pong link na nakalagay doon, huwag niyo pong basta-basta i-click yan kahit ano pa pong nakalagay dyan dahil usually po si SSS pag yan ay kailangan mag-communicate sa inyo, sa email po yan idadaan or doon sa mismo pong SSS, my.sss ninyo na account or profile. So, doon sila magbibigay sa inyo ng mga information na kailangan ninyo. Hindi po sila nagbibigay ng link sa text. So, be very, very careful, maging mapanuri, think before you click, wag pong basta-basta nagkiklik ng mga link na nakikita nyo po sa inyo pong mga text messages. Reminder din po para sa mga OFW members, wag po nating kalimutan ang ating pong deadline para po sa ating contribution. So, for January to September 2024, yan po ay meron kayo hanggang sa katapusan ng buwan para bayaran yung contributions nyo para sa period na yan. And then from October to December naman, meron po kayo hanggang January 31, 2025 para bayaran ang inyong contribution. Napakaganda po, lalong-lalo na po sa mga OFW natin, napakaganda na i-continue nyo po yung inyong pong contribution para pag dumating yung time na kayo magre-retire na, meron pa rin kayong makukuha na pension from SSS. Ayan. Si Pag-ibig naman po ay nagpapaalala kung wala pa po kayong loyalty card or loyalty plus card, now is the time to get that card kasi po nagbibigay po yan ng 44% discount sa lahat po ng services except waxing sa lahat po ng branches ng Derm Care. Ayan, sa mga piling branches ng derm care. Naku, baka tayo ay masakal ng derm care. Ayan. So, yan po ay maaari nyo pong ma-enjoy from December 14 to December 24. Ilang araw na lang, magde-December 24 na. So, kung wala pa po kayo noong Loyalty Plus at Loyalty Plus card, sugod na kagad po sa pinakamalapit na Pag-ibig branch. Mabilis lang po ang pagkuha ng Loyalty Plus card. Plus, yung pong Loyalty Plus card ni Pag-ibig, yan po also access an ATM. So, po pwede nyo po yung gamitin as, kumbaga, alternate na bank account ninyo. Kasi pag meron po kayong mga loans or mga benefits that you're trying to get from Pag-ibig, dyan po nila ipapasok yan. So, maganda po na meron na talaga kayong Loyalty Card Plus. Ang discounts po na in-offer ng Pag-ibig or ng inyong Loyalty Card and Loyalty Plus card ay hindi lang po limited sa derm care. Madalas po nating ina-announce dito kung ano-ano pa po yung mga po pwede nyo ma-take advantage. Pwede rin po kayong pumunta sa www.pagibigfund.gov.ph/loyaltycardplus/. Yan po, para makita nyo po yung buong listahan ng lahat ng mga discounts na po pwede nyo pong ma-take advantage pag kayo po ay merong loyalty card and loyalty plus card. Ayan. Si PhilHealth naman po, na ngayon po ay naku po, gasgas na gasgas ang pangalan ni PhilHealth sa mga balita. Pinapaalala din po nila na kung kayo po ay merong HIV, nag-o-offer na po si PhilHealth right now ng outpatient HIV or AIDS treatment package. Ayan, hindi po kayo nag-iisa sa inyong laban against HIV or AIDS. Yan po ay meron kayong 39,000 na po pwedeng makuha as part ng outpatient HIV/AIDS treatment package. Yan po ay nasa 9,750 per quarter. Ayan. Huwag pong matatakot. Ang HIV po ay hindi po yan hindi po yan death sentence. Kung kayo po ay maaalagaan ninyo ang sarili nyo at hindi po kayo magpapastress or masyadong magpapagod at hindi bababa ang inyong immune system, it is actually something that you can live with and survive. Early symptoms po ng HIV, fever, fatigue, swollen lymph nodes, sore throat, muscle aches, night sweats, rash, and mouth sores. Ayan. Later symptoms po niyan ay kasama po ang weight loss, persistent fever, night sweats, severe and persistent diarrhea, swollen lymph nodes, and opportunistic infections. Pag sinabi po nating opportunistic infections, ibig po sabihin nito, ito po yung mga infections that occur more often or are more severe in people with weakened immune system. So, hindi lang po sa ano yan yung opportunistic infections, hindi lang po sa mga may HIV yan na nangyari. Basta po kayo po ay may kinalaman sa immune system, ang inyo pong sakit, maaari po kayo magkaroon ng opportunistic infection. So, ingat-ingat po. Para naman po sa mga tao na meron pong HIV, isa lang pong paalala, yan pong condition ninyo ay hindi po yan po pwedeng gamitin laban sa inyo. So, hindi po kayo po pwedeng i-require ng mga companies na i-disclose po kung kayo po ay HIV positive bago kayo tanggapin sa trabaho. Kasi in the first place, wala namang impact yan sa trabaho. Okay? So, ayan po. Alisin na po natin ang stigma that comes with HIV. Ang mga people who are suffering from HIV ay po pwede po silang magkaroon ng productive life. Okay? Hindi po yan death sentence. Okay. Paalala din po na ang HIV po ay natatransmit via unprotected sexual intercourse, sharing or using needles or syringes, mother-to-child transmission. It can also be transmitted pag yung during pregnancy, childbirth, or breastfeeding. Magkaiba po ang HIV at ang AIDS. Ang HIV po, it attacks the immune system, which makes you vulnerable sa mga infection. Nagiging AIDS lang po yan if it is left untreated. It can progress to AIDS. Okay? But if it's treated, if you follow kung ano man po yung binibigay sa inyo na course of action or action plan ng inyong doktor, maaari po na hindi po yan mag-progress to AIDS. Okay? Yan. Okay, pinapaalala din po ng PhilHealth, wala pong loan sa PhilHealth. Yan, di ba? Ilang beses na rin nating sinabi yan ng atin pong PhilHealth ay hindi po nagbibigay ng loan. So, wag po kayong basta-basta naniniwala sa mga websites na nakikita nyo na nagsasabi na po pwede kayong mag-loan sa PhilHealth. Hindi po yan totoo, wala pong loan sa PhilHealth. Para po sure kayo na tamang information na nakukuha nyo, pumunta po kayo sa website mismo ng PhilHealth or po pwede pwede rin po kayong tumawag sa kanila sa 8662-2588. Pwede rin po kayong mag-text at mag-request ng callback sa 0998-857-2957, 0917-127-5987, 0968-865-4670, at 0917-110-9812. Marami na pong number na itinalaga ang PhilHealth na po pwede nyo pong i-text para makuha nyo po ang kasagutan sa inyo pong mga tanong. No weekends, no holidays. Available po yan 24/7, 365 days a year. I-text nyo lang po ang PHI callback, space, mobile number kung saan kayo po pwedeng tawagan, space, details of your concern. At kung hindi nyo naman feel ang mag-text, pwede kayong pumunta sa www.philhealth.gov.ph. Pag kayo po ay mga HR, pwede rin po kayong mag-email sa inyong mga account officers. Yun nga rin yung mga account officers, syempre hindi sila 24/7. But, isa naman siguro sa pwede nating sabihin na maganda naman kay PhilHealth, sumasagot naman po kagad yung kanilang mga account officers. At very accommodating naman. At least from my experience and from the experience of the people that I've worked with, accommodating naman po yung mga account officers ng mga PhilHealth. At tutulungan naman talaga kayo sa mga kailangan ninyo. Okay? Ayan. Ay, Diyos ko. At dito na tayo sa pinaka-exciting part ng ating pong episode for today. Yung ating pong speaker, actually, hindi ko alam kung paano ko siya i-introduce kasi isa rin po siya sa ating pong co-host dito po sa HR Cafe. And we've guested this person a number of times in the past. Isa siya sa mga active members ng Philippines HR Group. Kung kayo po ay madalas umaattend ng HR Summit, is also one of our guest speakers or one of our guest panelists, guest moderator. Every time na nagkakaroon tayo ng HR Summit. So, siguro, without further ado, I would like to call onto the stage talaga, our speaker for today, Dr. Ray Premista, to talk about the 4 disciplines of execution. Ayan. Doc Ray, ayan. Good afternoon. I know na medyo may challenge tayo sa camera right now. Tama po ba?
Yes, that's correct, Miss Rona. Wow, nakakahawa talaga yung energy mo, but I cannot, use my full voice. It's because I'm right here in the lounge. I was like, okay,
Oo.
but I'm so
It's
excited to
okay.
being here. And as
Ayan.
mentioned
Sige.
by, thank you for that, Mr. Rona. As mentioned by Mentor Rona, my camera is not enabled in this laptop, but because I wasn't able to bring my webcam, but later on I'll be on cam right after presenting because my presentation material is right here in my laptop. So I'll I'll be on cam later on. So I just want to proceed with the presentation and let me know. And I hope that you can participate with me when I do the presentation. I believe this is going to be a very nice sharing session with you. It can be very simple to some when you hear about it, but it's actually difficult when you implement this. So
Yes.
let me know,
So,
Miss
Doc
Rona,
Ray,
if I can proceed. Please go ahead,
yes
Miss
po.
Rona.
Okay na po. So, the stage is yours na po. I'll be at the backstage. Just let me know po pag may mga need ka pa po. But the floor is yours na po.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Miss Rona. Let me start sharing my screen at this point. Okay, it's just loading. Just give me one moment. Okay, I'm also tuned in right here in the Facebook page so that I can see your comments because I want to make sure that I engage you, like all of you, in this specific webinar. Okay, so let me go ahead. So this is the 4DX or the 4 disciplines of execution that I want to share with you at this point. By the way, my name is Trey. Once again, I know Mr. Ron was able to introduce me already, but you can always find me in the social media space. So these are the different social media accounts that I have. So please feel free to follow me, subscribe to my channel as well. I'll make sure I'll commit by 2025 to uploading more content, and that's a gift for everyone. So by the way, before you dive into our topic for today, I'd like to start with by inviting each of you to live this experience with intention, because I always believe on intentionality. So what does that mean when I say live with intention? From my perspective, living with intention means being mindful in our actions, in our decisions, in our interactions, especially as from the HR environment, that we have to be very mindful. We have to be very intentional with the interactions with the people that we work with. It's really more about bringing awareness to our thoughts, to the choices that we make on a daily basis, and really directing our energies towards meaningful goals and outcomes of the organizations, and even for your personal perspective. And when we live with intention, we actually unleash that power. We unlock that power to shape our lives and the experiences that we have on a daily basis right here on Earth. So I want to make sure that we can apply this concept to our learning experience today. And I want you to take a moment to pause, to reflect on why you are here and what you hope to gain from our session for today. Are you seeking new insights? Are you seeking for some practical strategies or connections with your fellow participants right here? You can actually use the chat box. You can use the Facebook page, the chat box that we have in there, because I'm tuned in. I'm seeing like all of your comments at this point. I just want to know, what do you hope to gain from our session for today? And for me, it's very important. You can simply type your goals. You can simply type your maybe aspirations, maybe some of the questions that you hope to explore in our session for today. I believe that would be great. So let's give it a moment for you to share your intention, why you are here on this specific webinar. So let's take a moment to pause and think about, why are we here today? What do you hope to accomplish from this webinar? I love what Ernan mentioned, to learn new insights. I love that. I mean, as long as you have that intention, I believe you should be good. Like living with intentionality. Oh, I mean, I can see Bong is also joining us. At this point, thank you so much, Bong, for joining. How about the others? I want to hear more from you. What do you hope to accomplish? What do you hope to gain from our session for today? Because I'm going to share with you the four disciplines of execution. This is something that I'm trained on. I'm certified with the four disciplines of execution. At the same time, we've implemented it many times for the past 10 years with different organizations, and I've seen a lot of magic when we implemented this. And I want to say again, the one that I mentioned earlier, that it may sound simple in terms of the methodology itself, the roadmap itself, but when you implement this, it's actually difficult. There's a lot of things in the world that are simple but difficult when you implement them, when you execute them. Okay, so please step back, and you can always use the chat box in here to share whatever intention that you may have, whatever questions that you may have. So please feel free to use the chat box in here. So I'll look forward to really engaging more from you. One of the things I want to share with you before we move forward as well is this specific framework. We know the concept of the learning curve. The learning curve can be faster, it can be slower as well. But we also need to be aware in terms of the concept of the forgetting curve. The forgetting curve is much faster than your learning curve. What I'm trying to say is, we used to when we love attending this type of webinars, different types of sessions, learning sessions. But then again, if you don't apply the things that you acquired in any of the sessions in the next couple of days, like in the next 4 to 5 days, you're going to forget like 60 to 70% to 80% of them in the next couple of days. So what I'm trying to say is, I want you to select or maybe get maybe 1 to 2 concepts that you can apply, and try to translate them into your workplaces or even your personal life, because 4DX is not just applicable to organizations, but it's also applicable when you want to achieve your widely important goal in your personal life, right? So be very aware of the forgetting curve. We usually forget a lot of the things. It's because of the things that we do on a daily basis, because of a lot of the priorities that we do on a daily basis. That's why we usually forget all of these things that I'm trying to share with you at this point. So let me jump into the agenda that we have for our session. First up, we'll talk about the essence of the 4DX, or the framework itself. What is it and why does it matter? We'll explore the foundational principles that underpin this powerful methodology. As I mentioned with you, it has a lot of magic, and how it can help our approach to achieving the goals in your organizations. Next, we'll zoom in on discipline number one, which is all about focusing on the wildly important, which is all about narrowing our focus to the few critical goals that will make the most significant impact. Later on, I'll share with you more about that. Then we'll move on to discipline number two, which is about acting on the lead measures. And here we shift from merely setting goals to actively pursuing those goals. We'll discuss how to identify some of the specific actions, and that's what we call the lead measures. Later on, you'll understand more of that. That will drive progress toward the goal, and how to harness those goals effectively. And after that, we'll tackle discipline number three, which is about keeping a compelling scoreboard. In this specific discipline, we'll explore the importance of visibility and accountability. We'll explore the importance of the scoreboards, that not only track the progress, but also inspire and motivate us to keep pushing forward. And finally, we'll conclude with discipline number four. This is really more about creating the cadence of accountability. In this specific discipline, we'll discuss how to institutionalize the disciplines into our day to day operations. We'll establish rhythms. That's why it's called cadence, right? Of accountability that ensure everyone stays aligned, engaged, and committed to achieving the goals of our organization. So just to sum up, to summarize all of the things that I mentioned when it comes to our agenda, you'll not only have that understanding of each discipline, but also have I look forward to really, sharing with you some practical insights and tools so that you can implement them effectively within your teams or even in your personal life. So let's now jump into the 4DX framework. And I want to engage you in this specific question, because I know this is something that would resonate with a lot of leaders in the globe. So this question, if you can use the chat box, which of these do you struggle with more? Is it the creation of the strategy or is it the execution of the strategy? Is it the creation of the plan or is it the implementation of the plan where you struggle with more? So take a moment to reflect on your experiences. Please use the chat box as well. Which aspect? Is it the strategy or is it the execution do you find more challenging? It's because for me, understanding where we face our greatest hurdles at this point is the first step towards overcoming them. So for Mentorona, it's execution. How about from the others? Where do you struggle with more? Is it the creation of the strategy or is it the execution of the strategy? Especially from HR perspective, we do have a lot of strategies, right? Um, where do you struggle with more? Is it on how you craft your strategy or is it on how you implement those strategies? For Erna, it's also execution. Can you also share maybe a bit, maybe a phrase or maybe one sentence why it's difficult for you? Why you struggle more with execution? Ah, um, mahirap pag may ADHD as per Mentorona. That's the same thing with me. I can totally understand. I'm with you, Mentorona. It's because I always believe that I have that adult ADHD as well. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing. But to those ones, you can always use the chat box in here. You can also put it right there in your notes, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. When you're ready, you can always use the chat box that we have in here for you to engage. But I would encourage you to really participate in the session because who knows, right? Maybe your sharing could be a huge learning to one of the participants, to one of the viewers, to one of the leaders right here. Please feel free to share your story. But whenever you're ready, and we are more than happy to welcome all of your comments, all of your sharing, or all of your insights, all of your questions, or you can also share any of the takeaways that you have when we move forward. But going back to this question, a lot of the leaders in the globe, when you ask them, I mean, majority of the leaders in the globe, when you ask them, they would say that it's really more about execution of the strategy where they find struggle with more. It's because there are so many things that are happening right beyond our control whenever we implement a lot of things. As they mentioned, as you would hear about the old adage that um, the terrain is different from the map. It only means that there are so many things that we've planned but the things that are happening are way different from what we've planned. And that usually happens is because of the so many factors or external factors. But I'm not saying, by the way, that creating a strategy is a simple thing. Both both activities, these are the huge complex activities. Creation of the strategy is also difficult. Execution of the strategy is also difficult, especially when you look at the creation of the strategy, right? There's still a lot there's a lot of struggle when you look at that perspective. The initial creation of the strategy, when you look at navigating through uncertainties, when you want to align the diverse perspectives coming from the people that you work with, coming from different stakeholders, it's so difficult, right? And even refining the complex visions into that actionable plans, right? The plans that we can execute, they can be daunting tasks as well. But majority of the leaders in the globe, they find a bit simpler when they do the creation of the strategy as compared to execution of the strategy. And I want to share with you this book. This is one of the inspirations of the three authors of the Four Disciplines of Execution, or 4DX. This one is a very nice book. If you get if you see a copy of this one, maybe in the national bookstores or any of the bookstores, I'm not plugging a specific brand, but any of the bookstores, get a copy of this one, especially if you're a leader. This one is a very nice book. I also have this book. For this episode of execution, I have also that book. I was able to read it from cover to cover. I love reading, by the way. And this one as well. And this is written by some of the popular people in the globe, like Larry Bossidy, one of the popular CEOs, and Ram Charan, one of the business consultants of the globe. It was mentioned in this book. There's that statement that they mentioned that 70% of the strategic failures come from or business strategic failures come from poor execution of leadership. It's rarely for lack of smarts or vision. And for me, it serves as a blunt reminder that no matter how brilliant our ideas or grand our visions, they can ultimately falter if we lack the discipline. If we lack the trigger to execute them effectively, it's not a question of intelligence or foresight for sure. Rather, it's the ability of someone, of leaders, to translate those qualities into tangible action. There are so many things that are happening, right? That in whenever we implement things, there are so many unavoidable challenges, obstacles that lie in our path. So that's why when you get a copy of this book, you've gained more perspectives as well coming from this execution book, which is one of the inspirations of the authors of the 4DX. What I share with you as well, these are the some of the compelling data coming from an international survey, and this was conducted by the Franklin Covey organizations. By the way, the four disciplines of execution, this is like proprietary of the Franklin Covey organization. So usually it's an expensive one. When you go through this specific training, usually it takes you like 2 days, like a lot of the workshops that you have to go through. And I've implemented, and then I've facilitated this four disciplines of execution to a lot of leaders. So that's why I'm super familiar with all of the all of the areas of the four disciplines of execution. So if you'd like to ask more questions later on, I would be more than glad to answer all of your questions later on. So, according to this survey, by the way, going back to what I was trying to say earlier, going back to this study coming from the Franklin Covey organization in collaboration with their client organizations worldwide, these are the findings that shed light on the primary reasons why execution often breaks down within any organization. The first one is 85%. 85% of the respondents, they reported that they don't know the goal. They don't know the goal. It's because first one, they literally don't have the goal. Second one is they have so many goals that they don't know what is that overarching goal that they need to hit. The third one is the goal is not specific. When the goal is not specific, there's a higher likelihood that you're going to be confused and it will be hazy later on for the people in the organization. Another reason of this one is your goal, they keep remain your goals, they keep on changing as frequent as possible, that people are becoming more confused what is that overarching goal, right? And That lack of clarity regarding that overarching goal can significantly hinder the progress and alignment within our teams. So that's the 85% in here. When we jump to 80% indicated that they don't keep score. And without that means of tracking progress and measuring success, it would be challenging to maintain the momentum and ensure accountability. You cannot improve anything that you cannot measure. You cannot manage anything that you cannot measure, right? So that's the 80% in here. And it's going to be fair for our people if they know where they stand. I've said this a lot of times that some of the leaders, they let go of some of the people that worked for them, and they were surprised the moment that they were let go. And for me, that is a super no-no. That is super no-no. If someone from your team is surprised when you let him go, that is the fault of you. Anyone from your team should not be surprised at all. They should know where they stand at any any point of their journey in our organization. So that's the 80% in here. 87%, they express that they don't know what to do to achieve the goal. And I spent many times doing a lot of facilitation at the coaching session. How you would like to, and how you do it with the people, with your people. At the same time, I spent a lot of times doing observations, doing client sessions, or observing how leaders are coaching their people or their employees or their direct reports. And I've heard a lot of coaching that would sound like, okay, by next week you have to hit that specific goal on this specific KPI, or by next month you have to hit that specific goal. You have to trim down from this much to this much significantly, and that's the end of the conversation, which is not a good thing. As leaders in the organization, we need to make sure that we partner with our people so that they can be successful in what they do. Partner with them for their success. The last one in here is the 81%. 81%, they reported that they are not held accountable. I've seen this not just right here in Asia, but also even in the North America, even in the Latin America. I've seen that a lot of leaders, they don't know how to hold people accountable. It's because they want to be liked. And when you want to be liked, you shy away from delivering conversations that are very critical or very important conversations that you need to have. You shy away from difficult conversation or tough conversation or truthful conversation. So that's the 81% in here. And without the clear expectations and mechanisms for accountability, our people may lack that motivation to follow through on their commitments. So these are some of the basic reasons why execution breaks down in most organizations in the globe. I want to jump into this specific slide, which is another inspiration of the four disciplines of execution. If you would notice, if you research about the four disciplines of execution, they now have the branding of a system. It's now part of their branding, and they got it coming from this Atomic Habits, which is, I know some of you are fans of James Clear, right? Atomic Habits, one of the like bestsellers in the globe, and he's also one of my one of the books that I love as well, Atomic Habits. It was mentioned on that book that you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And when you look at this one, it has a lot of wisdom. If you think about this, if you internalize it, if you pause, if you reflect about these statements coming from James Clear, it has a lot of wisdom. What I'm trying to say in here, when you talk about system, right? When you talk about system in here, we're talking about the processes. We're talking about the routines, the structures, the plans, the habits. So these are the ones that form part of the system. So it only means that it doesn't matter whether you have a big goal, like a super big goal in the world, you have the best, like amazing goal in the world. If you don't have that system that can support it, that can help you to win it, that can help you to hit that goal, then you're going to fail later on. What I'm trying to say is maybe you can hit that goal once, But the question in here is, how can you keep on winning over a long period of time? How do you keep on winning over and over again? So that's the beauty of the system in here. And the system is, we set that up. As leaders in the organization, we set up that system. I'm not trying to say that we don't change the system. The system has to change over time. It has to evolve over time. Whatever feedback that we're getting along our journey, along the process, we have to feed it back to that system so that the system keeps on improving. But a point I want to make in here is, as long as you have that reliable, consistent system, you can actually keep on winning over a long period of time. And this wisdom is not only applicable to our companies, to our organizations, this is also applicable with yourself, with your personal life. At this point, you have to ask yourself, right? Do you have the system? What is the system that you have established at this point? Like, what are the processes, personal processes that you do? What are the habits that you're able to build? Are you accomplishing? Are you hitting those goals that you set for yourself? Do you even have goals? So these form part of that system. So the system is very important whenever you want to hit goals, or personal goals or organizational goals. System is very important. I want to share with you at this point the concept of the high performing teams, because later on I'll be sharing with you more about the parameters of greatness. We always want to be great for sure. Why are we here at this point? Personally, we want to be ahead of the game. We want to be amazing for sure. We want to be extraordinary. The same thing with our companies. We want to immerse ourselves with so many learning sessions, hoping that maybe we can get a lot of the strategies that we can implement, that we can be more successful, that we can be more sustainable. And that's what the purpose of this slide, for all of you. I just want to share that when you go to a lot of the organizations, when you compare the good organizations to great organizations, when you visit a good organization, you can find low performers, you can also find high performers. When you visit a great organization, you can also find low performers and you can also find high performers. But the question is, what's the difference between the two? This is the difference between the two. The high performers would have more high performers. They have higher concentration of the high performers as compared to the good organization. So that's what we would want to explore more. How can we get from good to great? I just want to share with you this methodology as well. This is the usual bell curve right there. 20% would set right there at the low performance bucket. 20% should be at the high performance bucket. A lot of the people would sit right there at the mid performance bucket. With my experience of working with like different departments, especially from operations perspective, I've seen a lot of times, um, like every month, they usually focus more on the bottom performers. Like the focus of their action plans, all of those things are for the bottom performers. But then again, you would notice that, especially if those people have been like in the low performance or bottom performance for quite some time, they're so hard to it's so hard to improve them. I mean, that's something that I've seen so far in terms of a observation. Why don't you just focus on the mid performers? I mean, prioritize the mid performers so that you can actually move the needle as quickly as possible. That's the moving the middle methodology. So what I usually do, I focus first with my mid performers because I can easily move them to the right, which means that I could be high performing teams. I definitely would want to do something with my low performers and then higher performers as well. But the priority should always be at the mid performers. It's the 60%. Like statistically, a lot of the people are right there at the middle. Now, you would ask me, hey Ray, what are the parameters? What are the criteria of greatness? If you want to get from good to great, we want to know what are the criteria, right? What are the parameters, the measures? So these are the four outcomes of greatness. So they are hallmarks of excellence. These are the results of greatness, or the relentless pursuit of greatness in all aspects of our work. So let's talk about the sustained superior performance. The first one is, a lot of the great organizations, they don't just achieve success. This is what I'm trying to say earlier, they sustain that success over a long period of time. So they consistently deliver the exceptional business outcomes, business results. They surpass the expectations of their customers, of their clients, and they set new standards of excellence. And that's what sustained superior performance is all about. The second one is intensely loyal customers. Greatness is not only measured by the financial metrics of the organization, but is also measured by the loyalty and advocacy of our customers. So great organizations, they usually cultivate that meaningful relationship, that deep relationship with their customers. They usually earn the trust of their customers, their clients, the loyalty of their clients, and they get usually the support coming from their customers and clients, right? The third one is the winning culture. Behind every great organization is what we call the winning culture. And from HR perspective, for sure, this is something that we are all familiar with, the winning culture. A culture that inspires, a culture that motivates, a culture that empowers its people to achieve their full potential. It's a culture where there's innovation, there's continuous improvement, there's collaboration. It's a culture where every individual, they feel valued, they feel respected, and they feel engaged in the organization. And that's what a winning culture is all about. And that's what we've been doing, right? From a share perspective, it's something that we've been fostering. We need to make sure that we have that winning culture. The last one is the distinctive contribution. When we say distinctive contribution, it's the meaningful impact that exceeds beyond the financial success of the organization, which means that we usually, I mean, other organizations, when you want to study great organizations, they do a lot of enriching the lives of their employees, enriching the lives of their customers, enriching the lives of the people in their communities in a profound and meaningful ways. That's why we have a lot of people who they doing a lot of the sustainable outreach programs with some of the communities, some of the great companies, they do that. So that's what the distinctive contribution is all about. So at this point, I want you to reflect from what I've shared. If you can step back and identify the strength of your organization, the weaknesses of your organization, or which area of your organization do you believe is something that they need to focus more on for them to get from good to great, I believe that would be a great exercise. I don't ask you to, share right there in the chat box. It can be your assignment at this point, this holiday, something that you can think about which area would you like to focus more on by 2025 that can help your organization to get from good to great. Want to share with you as well at the end of the day, since we talked about high performance or high performing teams, we talked about the four outcomes of greatness. I believe it's also a good thing for us to talk about results because at the end of the day, a lot of executives and um, a lot of us, we want results. As we mentioned earlier, right? We cannot improve something we cannot measure, and we cannot manage something we cannot measure. So let's understand more about the results. There are two types of results. There's results that we cannot control and results that we can control. Some of the examples of the results that we cannot control, for example, from talent acquisition perspective, recruiting perspective, um we cannot control over the applicants that we're getting. I mean, the behavior of the applicants that we're getting, whether they would want to sign off on the job offer that we're offering them, whether they would like to show up on their first day on their new hire orientation, we cannot control over that. I mean, there's a lot of things we can control as well: the weather, the pandemic, the system downtime, so many things. But what I'm trying to say is for us to focus more on the things that we can control. As leaders in the organization, we need to make sure that we're focusing on the things that we can control. And what are those two things that we can control? These are the strategy and these are your execution. Now, let's talk about strategy. There are two types of strategy from the perspective of the four disciplines of execution. We have what we call the stroke of the pen strategy, and we also have the behavioral change strategies. And these strategies, by the way, when you look at the stroke of the pen, let's start with that. These stroke of the pen strategies, they can be implemented as quickly as possible with that stroke of the pen or literally approval coming from a boss or any of the senior leaders. When you want to make policy changes, for example, when you want to do restructuring or any of the top down directives, then that's under the stroke of the pen. And these are some of the examples that you can see in here when we talk about stroke of the pen. I can even consider when we when we um when we issue, for example, NTEs to our employees, I believe that can still be part of the stroke of the pen. And a lot of the stroke of the pen strategies, they are accompanied by the behavioral change if you want to sustain that specific um, strategy. On the other hand, we have the behavioral change strategies. And these type of strategies, I know all of us are so familiar with the behavioral change strategies. And this one is harder to do as compared to the stroke of the pen. It's because it involves about changing the habits of our people, the actions of our people, changing the mindsets of our people. Um, and they require a lot of time as well. They require a lot of effort. And if we want to implement them effectively, then we have to be very patient with that type of strategy because we need to ensure that we're working closely with the people that we're working with. But that type of strategy can drive lasting transformation. It has the potential of driving lasting transformation for our organization. So two things, right? I usually ask this, which of the two is more important? Is it the stroke of the pen or is it the behavioral change? The answer to the question is really it depends. But because a lot of the leaders would say, "Oh, it's behavioral change." Both are actually important. It depends on the problem that we're trying to solve. Some of the strategies can be done by just doing stroke of the pen, but most of the strategies, right, they usually start from the stroke of the pen, and we would want to sustain it with the behavioral change. But if the question is which is harder to do, for sure, it's going to be behavioral change. It's because it will not only require 100% commitment coming from you, especially from the leaders in the organization, but it will require more than 100% for sure. So, according to the Bain organization, they mentioned that 65% of the business initiatives they required significant behavioral change on the part of the frontline employees. Imagine that, right? 65%. That's a huge chunk of a percentage if you think about this. So they required a significant behavioral change on the part of the frontline employees. Um, Initiatives often entail more than just procedural or structural adjustments in the organization. They usually demand that change in the behavior of our people, the mindsets, and work habits, not just with the people, with our people, but all levels in the organization. But most often than not, us as leaders in the organization, we fail to fully anticipate or adequately plan for these types of changes. And sometimes they lead to resistance, sometimes they lead to frustration, and ultimately, you're going to see suboptimal business outcomes. So it's very important. I mean, the behavioral change. I want to share with you as well this principle, which is a 94-6 principle. This is a Deming principle, by the way. Deming is one of the popular quality gurus of the world. And before he died, he shared that specific principle. So it's called the 94-6 principle. This 94-6 principle, it states that whenever there's a problem in the organization, especially if majority of the people are behaving the same way, the problem, 94% of that problem can be attributed to the system and just 6% to the people, right? So I repeat that 94% of the problem can be attributed 94% of the problem can be attributed to the system and just 6% to the people. So we go back to the concept of the system. As we mentioned earlier, right, when we talk about systems, these are the structures that we build. These are the processes that we build in the organizations. And sometimes the processes in the organizations, because we're not improving them, these are the ones that are enabling our people to commit mistakes, but we're just ignoring them. So that's the 94% in here. So it only means we set that, we establish that system in the organization, and that is 94%, which means that is leadership at the end of the day, right? That 94%. 6% is because of the people, which is negligible when you look at the 94, well, when you look at the 94%. What I'm trying to say in here is that people are not the problem, because usually whenever there's a problem in the organization, a lot of the leaders in the globe, they usually look at people as the problem in the situation, which is not a good thing. So now I invite you, whenever there's a problem, you look at it from perspective, from process perspective. Most likely there's something that we're missing in there from our side as leaders in the company. I'm not saying that we don't let go of our people, right? I mean, those people that are not aligned with the core values, I mean, that 6%, so we still have that 6%, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. So I'm not saying that 100%, that's why it's 6% and 94%. So people are not the problem. Our people are not lazy. They're doing the best way they could, especially in trying to accommodate all of the distractions. We call that as whirlwind in the context of the four disciplines of execution. So with that, I want to jump into that concept, the whirlwind. The whirlwind, for example, when you come to the office, when you open your email, you have a lot of emails that you have to respond to. Sometimes you have escalations. You have some chats that you have to respond to. You have to call the client. You have to do this admin thing with an employee. You have to issue this. You have to process this. So these are the whirlwind. These are like the daily thing that you do. Like this is like the what they call this, the day job that you do, and it consumes much of your time. It consumes much of our time. It consumes much of our attention, and a lot of our energy as well. Which means that we only have that little room for us to execute on the strategic goals of the organization. So that's the whirlwind. Now, at this point, I want to differentiate these two concepts, these two pressures, opposing pressures in the organization. We have the whirlwind and we have the goals. By the way, I'm not saying that whirlwind is bad. Whirlwind is actually good for us. It's because it's all about the business, right? It keeps the business running, especially if the clients. I mean, most of the thing, especially from operations perspective, whirlwind. So we usually do that most often. So going back to the concept earlier, whirlwind, it represents the urgent tasks that we do on a daily basis. These are the routine responsibilities that we do, the everyday demands that compete for our attention and energy. So it acts on us. That's the whirlwind. Whether we like it or not, we do it. On the other hand, we have the goal. um the goal that we're trying to say in here, these are our aspirations, these are the ambitions of the company, these are the strategic goals of the organizations, which are distinct, and they represent new activities, they represent new business initiatives and endeavors that we actively pursue for us to achieve the progress in the company, which is very important. um we usually act on them. That's why we need to be very conscious enough for us to have that time for us to execute as well the goals, not just fully doing all of the whirlwind in the organization. If you ask me in terms of what's the ratio in terms of the execution of the whirlwind and the goals, a good number as shared by the Franklin Covey organization, you should be executing 80% for the whirlwind and just 20% for the goals. But most of the time, the 20%, it's hard to do it. So if you can do that, I mean, if you can free up your time and then you can execute in the 20% for the goals, then that would give you um a good advantage for your company. So why 4DX? Once again, why 4 disciplines of execution? It's because the 4 disciplines of execution, it's based on principles, not on practices. And when I say principles, these are timeless. These are self-evident realities that can be applied universally, that can be applied in all of the industries, all of the sectors, all of the lines of business that you have, in most of the scenarios, it's applicable. Unlike with the practices, practices are inherently situational. They are subjective as well, and they constantly evolve. So it's a good thing that 4DX is based on principles. So we have 4 principles, by the way, behind the 4 disciplines. So let me share with you the framework itself. So enough of all of this introduction when it comes to like the build up when we talked about 4DX. So this one is the framework of the 4DX. As you would notice, right, the disciplines are actually arranged or symbolically arranged from right to left, because most of the frameworks in the globe, they arrange from left to right. But this one, it's arranged from right to left. So it has something to do with the high performance or high performing teams. That's why it's built this way. So how you read this framework is, according to the Franklin Covey organization, the high performing teams, they usually execute from right to left, meaning they hold themselves consistently accountable for the performance on the lead measures, which in turn drives the achievement of the wildly important goals. So discipline number three, you can see it. It's right there at the center stage. It's the compelling scoreboard. Everyone has to see that scoreboard. It's providing us the transparency and clarity, and it's inspiring everyone. It's motivating the teams that we have to stay focused and to stay aligned with the goals. That's why it's assigned that way. And surrounding the other disciplines is actually discipline number four, which is the cadence of accountability. And that specific discipline, discipline number four, it acts as the glue that holds everything together. So the 4DX, like if you would notice, it's high on accountability. So the circling arrow that you can see in here, it symbolizes that practice of regular, that frequent accountability for the success measures for the success measures on the scoreboard. So that some sort of creates the rhythm, that cadence that ensures that consistent progress and that ensures that momentum towards the goals that we have. So with that, let me jump now into discipline number one. So um, focus on the wildly important. Okay, so discipline number one, I usually do this like in a for X number of hours. So this is like the overview or the skinny version of the entire 4DX. I usually do it like 1 day or 2 days in terms of the workshop, but it's usually it's an amazing workshop. I've done this like many times. So this one, I usually engage my audience when it comes to this, but I want to move forward. So these are the number of goals that we set for the organization. So we have 2 to 3 goals, for example, 4 to 10 goals, or 11 to 20 goals. The question they usually ask in here is like, how many goals do you think are you going to achieve with excellence when you want to focus on 2 to 3 goals at the end of the day, right? I'm talking about, by the way, I I didn't say just achievement, but I put a qualifier in there, right? Achievement with excellence. So if you focus on 2 to 3 goals, how many goals do you think are you going to achieve with excellence at the end of the day? How about for 4 to 10 goals? How about for 11 to 20 goals? So, according to the study of the Franklin Covey organization, these are the numbers. If you focus on 2 to 3 goals, at the end of the day, you would be achieving 2 to 3 goals as well. If you focus on 4 to 10 goals, you would be achieving 1 to 2 goals with excellence at the end of the day. But if you focus on 11 to 20 goals, this is a situation wherein you would say that when everything is priority, there's actually no priority. That's the 11 to 20 goals. There's nothing that you can accomplish meaningful from that number of goals that you have, right? You may be achieving for sure some of the results. You might have that, but these are mediocre results. We're talking about achievement with excellence. So good is the enemy of great. This is a powerful reminder for us that settling for good enough can prevent us from achieving greatness. And when we become complacent with mediocrity, we miss out on the opportunity for us to reach our full potential. And I usually share this to my mentees, my coaches, or students that when you become complacent, that is the start of your end. So, let me share with you as well the Pareto principle. So we're also building up like several principles before I share with you what does it mean when we say discipline number one. So Pareto principle. A lot of you would know this as the 80-20 rule. So this is the Pareto principle. I um prepared two scenarios for you. The first one is from effort results perspective, that you can actually achieve 80% or significant percentage of your results by just exerting 20% of your effort. For example, you have a lot of things in your to-do list. You don't need to do them all at once. You have to prioritize them and select which ones, like a few ones that can give you that bigger accomplishment at the end of the day. So you have to be very smart in terms of selecting um, the items that you would like to do, and make sure that you're investing a lot of your energy to the ones that can give you bigger impact. Next one is from problem solving perspective, that you can actually address 80% or significant percentage of the problems by just focusing on addressing 20% of the causes. You don't need to think about or brainstorm or implement all the solutions in the world, but you just have to focus on a few things that can give you the 80% of the resolution of the problem. And I want to share with you as well, coming from Winston Churchill, you will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. Maybe some of you can relate to this. There are so many distractions um, whenever we work, right? There's so many distractions, but there's always a lot of magic when we have that focus. Even when you think about the case study coming from Apple, they don't do a lot of things. They only have like a few product lines, and they just put their energy on these products that they believe that they can excellently do well. So that's what Apple is all about. That's what they're doing. Now let me share with you on the a little bit technical side of it, on how you would like to structure your widely important goals. So wigs, not pigs. Wigs, that means wildly important goals. Pigs, by the way, that's pretty important goals. So pretty important goals. So that's pigs. Wigs, not pigs. And here are the rules, by the way, in terms of creating the wildly important goal in your organization. First one, you only have to have 1 to 2 wigs or wildly important goals for the same team at the same time. The second one is your sub-wigs must ensure the success of the parent wigs. It only means that your sub-wigs must have alignment with your parent wigs or the organizational wig. It's like when you do this um, strategic planning, that you have to make sure that everything is aligned. Just the same thing with this one. You have to make sure that it's aligned vertically, meaning your organizational wig is aligned all throughout the organization, and it has to be aligned horizontally as well, meaning all of these departments, all of the functional areas, all of their sub wigs must be aligned as well. 4DX is high as well on alignment. If there's something or somewhere is not aligned, it's not going to work. Number three is this is the format. This is the format of the finish line when you want to state your widely important goal so that it becomes more specific. From X to Y by when. X is where you are today, Y is where you need to go, and when is the duration. So lag measure, that's the measurement of your wig. That's the measurement of your goal. Later on, I'll share with you the difference between the lag measure and the lead measure so that you can better appreciate that. This is one of the bold wigs coming from the former US president. He mentioned we will put a man on the moon and return him home safely by the end of the decade. And they were able to do it during his administration. But I know there are some controversies behind it, but it's a very good example still for this. It's a bold wig. There are so many. Whenever I do the workshop of this, there are so many sources on how you can come up with your own wig, the wig of your organization, and even your sub wigs. These are some example of good wigs that we built. For example, increase new client sales of existing product line from $1 million to $1.4 million by December 31, 2024. This pretty much specific from X to Y by when. From $1 million to $1.4 million by December 31, 2024. Second one is to reduce average accounts receivable days outstanding from 45 days to 31 days by June 30, 2024. So from X to Y by when again, right? From 45 days to 31 days by June 30, 2024. The third one is from sustainability perspective, reduce non-recyclable trash by 25% from 100,000 to 75,000 pounds per year by December 31, 2024. As I mentioned earlier, that when the goal is not specific, a lot of the people will become confused later on. It will become hazy later on. So it's very important, right? So focus, by the way, is the first principle. Focus is the principle behind discipline number one. And a lot of people, they usually put like meaning on the word focus, and this is what they came up with. Like focus means follow one course until successful. And as leaders in the organization, right, you play an important role in helping our teams to make the most of their effort. Where should you start? And by narrowing down in on their most important work, when a team is focused on how they can produce the most value, members can invest their time and energy well, and they don't try to do it all. Instead, they concentrate on the top priorities of the company, which is a very good strategy that lets them meet their goals while minimizing the stress. So this one is coming from HBR, Harvard Business Review. The companies were exceptional at managing their time, talent, energy. They usually um, they are usually more productive, like 40% more productive as compared to their competitors. Just want to review once again the principle behind discipline number one is focus. Then let's jump to discipline number two, acting on the lead measures. So at this point, I want to dive deeper in terms of the lead measures. I've promised earlier that I'll share with you the difference between the two concepts. So the lag measure is your output measure. Something that, what are the examples of the output measures, by the way? Um, you have your attrition, right? Attrition or employee turnover, attendance in operations. We have a lot of that, right? We have your customer satisfaction, net promoter score. Um, we have quality score, for example, turnaround time, and so many more. So these are all output measures. But when you think about them, there's nothing that you can do with them. Whenever you receive a lag measure, it's always in a form of a report. There's nothing that you can do with the report. It's already part of history. That's why your lead measure becomes so important. It's because it's an input measure. It only means it's an activity that you do that can get you to that lag measure, that are producing that lag measure. So let me now dive into the lead measures, right? Lag measure, these are the output measures in the world. Lead measures, these are your input measures. So what are the characteristics of your lead measures? First one, it is predictive. It needs to be predictive, meaning when you do that activity, it has to influence or it has to create movement to your lag measure. If you do that activity and your lag measure is not moving, forget about it. It's not a good lead measures. Second one, it has to be influenceable. Your team should have at least 80% of the ownership of that specific measure. So that's what we mean by influenceable. You don't do something that you don't have control over. So that's why earlier, right, when we talked about the results, we want to focus more on the results that we can control. And that's the same thing with our team. We don't want our teams to be victims in the situation. And we want to provide them that specific system. We want to ensure that the lead measures that they're working on are predictive and influenceable. And recently as well, Franklin Covey organization, they added two more. But these are not characteristics, by the way, but these are features of on how you state your lead measures. We added the frequency, we added the standard or quality metric. Later on, we'll have an example of that so that you better appreciate the frequency in standard or quality metric. So, so that you get what I'm trying to say in here. We want to simplify the concept of the lag and lead measure because a lot of people in the world are confused with the difference between the two. So let's have a quick example. And this is something relatable to a lot of the people in the globe. A lot of the people, especially now that we're turning the year from 2024 to 2025, a lot of the people will have their New Year's resolution. And majority of the people would say that I want to lose weight. Okay, so let's make that as an example. When you want to lose weight, your lag measure most likely would be your weight, right? How do you measure the weight? It can be in pounds, it can be in kilos. But what are the lead measures for you to get there? For you to achieve that lag measure that you put in there? What are the lead measures that are predictive, that are influenceable? And these are the two ones that are predictive and influenceable. You would usually say, I'm going to do, I want to focus on my diet. I want to focus on my exercise. How do you measure your diet? It can be you're gonna um, look at the number of the calories or the calorie intake for the exercise. If you love running, if you love jogging, then you can measure the miles run or the kilometers run, or maybe the number of um, exercises or workouts that you're doing, like on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. So those are some of the key activities that you can do that are predictive and influenceable so that you can achieve that weight loss, right? So let's put some numbers. Let's make it a bit formal, a bit technical, so that um, it can become more effective for you. It can work for everyone. So this is your lag measure, right? We mentioned earlier the format is from X to Y by when. So you put it this way. I want to lose weight from 180 pounds to 150 pounds by December 31, 2024, right? And then the lead measures that we mentioned earlier that are predictive and influenceable, these are your diet and these are your exercise. We also mentioned earlier in the previous slide that we added two more features in stating our lead measures. We put frequency and we put standard or quality metric. Now, let's put that in practice, like in diet. For the diet, you want to do less than 1,500 calories per day. So you already have the frequency, you already have your standard or quality metric, which is less than 1,500 calories, right? For the exercise, the same thing, right? The frequency as well as the quality metric or standard. 45 minutes, 5 days per week. Okay, so very specific. So on the example that we mentioned earlier on the lag measures, if you can still remember, right? These are the on the left hand side, you can see the lag measures that we used earlier. And these are the potential or the candidate lead measures for those lag measures. For example, because you can identify 2 to 3 lead measures for one lag measure. For example, for the first one, when you talk about the client sales, right, or new client sales of existing product line, maybe what you can do is holding 10 face-to-face client meetings per week. So that can be like a good candidate lead measures for you. Second one is when it comes to the account receivable days, then you can say that one of the candidate lead measures can be sending personalized reminder emails to 100% of clients 1 week before payments are due. The third one is when it comes to the non-recyclable trash by 25%, from 100,000 to 75,000 pounds, then you want to say that you want to achieve 3 hours per day of peer education at this recycling station. Okay. So those are some of the examples of the candidate lead measures for those lag measures. I want to share with you more. These ones are not specific, but I just want to share with you more concepts so that you can identify quickly what is a lag measure and what is a lead measure. Okay. So for example, in this, we have like improving customer satisfaction, right? One of the bullet points. Then maybe one of the candidate lead measures can be increasing the one-on-one coaching sessions that you're doing with the people that you work with. Okay. Um, this one is a very nice one. People who were encouraged to think in a collaborative manner maintain their focus on their activities for 64 longer. And they also reported that they feel more engaged and they experience much less stress, which is a very good study. So I want to share with you the principle behind discipline number two is leverage. We need to keep on leveraging the lead measures for us to achieve the lag measure and achieve eventually your widely important goal. So that's the essence of that. Then let's now jump now to discipline number three. Keep a compelling scoreboard. A very interesting one. Um, so for sure, at this point, you are curious, like how do we create that compelling scoreboard, Ray? Okay, so these are the rules in terms of creating your compelling scoreboard. First one, it has to be updatable. um the data can be collected as quickly as possible, as much as possible, so that's updatable. Second one is it has to be simple. It needs to be simple. When I say simple, you think about the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule, it means that um when you look at the scoreboard, in a span of 5 seconds or less, you can tell whether you're winning or losing. So think about that, right? In a span of 5 seconds or less, you can tell whether you're winning or losing. But most of the time, our scoreboards are not designed that way. We have to make sure that our scoreboards are team scoreboards, not leader boards. When we say leader boards, it will take you X number of seconds for you to get what it's trying to tell us. It's because most of the time, as leaders, we want to put a lot of the metrics in the world. But in the context of 4DX, we want to make it as simple as possible. So that's how we create a simple and compelling scoreboard. Next one is it needs to be complete. Complete in a sense that your accurate lag measure must be incorporated in your compelling scoreboard, and your accurate lead measures must be included right there in compelling scoreboard. So that's what we mean by complete. Accessible, it needs to be seen by everyone. If you're still like in a brick and mortar type of situation where you go into the office, or if you do hybrid or remote work, accessible would mean that you would have access on that specific dashboard online, or everyone should have access into that specific scoreboard. Next one is it needs to be motivating or inspiring. Before the pandemic, so when we did a lot of this implementation, we told our teams to design their own scoreboards, and they were able to design like different designs, different versions of their scoreboards, and they were the ones who were scoring. They were the ones who were updating the scoreboards. Like personally, they even put their pictures on their scoreboards. So they were so motivated. They were so inspired, and there was no like um bad competition that happened. Bad competition. I don't know if that's the right term, but there was like friendly competition that happened. So engagement, by the way, is the principle behind discipline number three. So it's very important. So with that, I mean, in terms of engagement, I usually post right there a lot of the poll surveys right here in the on LinkedIn environment, and these are some of the things that I posted related to engagement. Like this one, what makes you happy at work? That a lot of the respondents said that as simple as being appreciated, that what makes them happy at work. Not just career growth opportunities, but the first one is being appreciated. How can a company support you to reach your highest potential and boost your career journey? A lot of the people said support work life balance. At this stage in your life, which one do you value most? And a lot of people said it's happiness and mental health. So it's all about the well being. I want to end the discipline number three with this quote from Maya Angelou, one of the popular people in the globe, like one of the, I believe, influencers in the globe. um, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. It resonates with me so well. In that specific quote. So the first three disciplines, by the way, so that's just the preparation of the game, but the discipline number four, this is the actual game. This is the game proper. So let's now jump to the discipline number four, creating the cadence of accountability. So there's this what we call the week session in this 4DX, in the four disciplines of execution environment. So that week session is usually a short, intense team meeting to keep the team focused on the wildly important goals, despite all of the whirlwind that we talked about earlier, despite all of the urgent demands, right? Um, week session. It has to happen every week, same day, same time, and it needs to happen in 20 minutes. So remember that it needs to happen 20 minutes or less, not not more than 20 minutes. If it goes beyond 20 minutes, it's not a week session. So it's very specific, right? It's the system that you want to install in the organization. We want to do it in 20 minutes or less. It has to happen every week, same day, same time. If you are the facilitator as the leader, if you want to go on leave by next week, you have to assign it to someone so that it continues, right? It's a habit that we're building, it's a system that we're building. And this is the question that we usually ask our team whenever we do that week session. Actually, it's not one or two, but we just focus on just one. For example, what is that one important thing that you can do this week that will have greatest impact on the scoreboard? Well, it's that one thing that you can do this week that will have substantial impact on the scoreboard. So we asked that with our teams, like all of us, all the members of the team, we asked that. So how do you do the week session process? It's very simple. First one is you do the accounting, reporting on the last week's commitment, whether you're able to do it or not. So actually, in the concept of the 4DX, we have what we call we share the commitment on the lead measures, because lead measures, right, we mentioned earlier, these are activities, and for that activity, for us to make progress on that, then we need to make sure that we have commitments on the lead measures. So that's what we're trying to say in here, the number one. Number two is reviewing and updating the scoreboard. We learn from the successes and failures. And number three is plan for next week. And we also have a concept in here called the clearing the path. It only means that there are times that maybe one member of the team is not able to deliver that commitment, then the rest of the team members can clear the path for that person. We have to make sure that we're leaning on with one another, we're helping out each other, because we always believe that we need to achieve that wildly important goal, that the lead measures that we put in place are very important, are very critical for the success measures. um, Commitments must be calendared. I usually ask this as well. Why do we need to calendar our commitments? And a lot of the people would say, for sure, so we won't forget it. A lot of the leaders would say, so that we won't forget it, so that it's there, and all of these things, right? So that we can hold ourselves accountable. But if you think about this, if you think about the whirlwind, the blue ones that you can see in here, the yellow ones, right? These are the commitments. The blue ones are actually the whirlwind, which means if you don't put that yellow ones in the blue ones in the whirlwind, you will be eaten alive. You will be devoured 100% by the whirlwind. That is a situation wherein at the end of the week, you would say, you know what, I've done so many things. I've been so productive, but I don't think, I mean, I've done so many things, but I don't think I'm productive. That is the type of situation. It's because a lot of the things that you did for the week are all for the whirlwind, and nothing has been accomplished. Nothing has been executed for the commitment. Nothing has been executed for the wildly important goal in the organization. So, this is the relationship, by the way, of your commitment to your lead measure to your lag measure. So, we mentioned, right, on the lead measure, we mentioned that, hey, one of the candidate lead measures is for you to hold 10 face-to-face client meetings per week. For example, I'm the facilitator of the week session. Maybe I'm the leader, for example. And I would say, Mentor Rona, what is that one thing that you would do next week that will have great impact on the scoreboard? Then Mentor Rona would say, I will follow up with 19 client contacts to schedule face-to-face meetings. So the commitment ensures the success of your lead measures, and all of the team members are focused on how can we make sure that that we we execute the lead measures, that we achieve the lead measures that we put in place for the team. For another example, for the accounting, right, we mentioned that, for the accounts receivables, we send personalized reminder emails to 100% of clients, um, 1 week before payments are due. Maybe like um one of our viewers right here, Ernan, I would say, Ernan, what is the one thing that you can do this week that will have great impact on the scoreboard? And Ernan would say, I will rewrite my email template and send to my teammates for feedback. And that can be a good commitment as well. So accountability is the principle behind discipline number four. So before I end my presentation, so why 4DX once again? I was supposed to share with you some videos so that you can better appreciate the entire concept. Um, but I think it's not allowing me to share that video at this point. Maybe you can you can schedule in another forum that I can share with you more about the 4DX, especially if you are so interested. If you want to apply this to your organization, just let me know. So why? It clarifies the priorities of the organization. Clarity is very important at the end of the day. Second one is it engages every member of the team. And the third one is it allows the companies to achieve their wildly important goals. So before I end my presentation, because I want to go on camera at this point, I want to welcome, accommodate some of your questions. I want to share with you this quote fall in love with the process of continuously improving yourself every day, because there are so many things that we can learn every day. We just have to be very intentional, as I mentioned. So again, my name is Ray, and you can always follow all of the social media accounts that I have in here. So help me share some of the messages that I've been, posting right here, and please also participate. I've been doing a lot of the daily poll surveys on LinkedIn. Please be part of it. I mean, something that you can reflect on as well on your personal um, growth journey. So I want to say thank you. I want to stop sharing at this point, and I want to invite once again um, Mentor Rona to moderate our Q&A. And just give me a moment, Mentor Rona. I'll
Sige lang
I'll
po.
give me.
Ayan, sige. Habang inaayos ni Doc Ray ang kanyang camera, we have one commenter, Carl Justin Rosaline mentioned that, I love the topic today. Thank you. Ayan po. So for the rest, if you have any questions, comments about the topic that we have today, please palagay lang po yan sa ating comment section para ma-discuss po natin. Ayan. Doc Ray, pwede na bang mag-raise ng question?
Oh, yes, yes,
Kasi meron
absolutely.
akong ano eh.
Absolutely.
Meron tayong phone-in question. So, ang tanong sa akin is, yun daw bang 4DX, is this something that can be applied kung maliit lang yung team? At kung pwede, paano daw pa pwedeng i-apply ito?
Super applicable. Regardless whether you're a big company or a small company or a small team, mas maganda nga yun eh. For a small one, it's because when you look at bigger organization, as I mentioned earlier, no, alignment is very important on the four disciplines of execution. Ang hirap kasi i-align kapag malaki yung teams,
Mhm.
especially if sabihin natin you have 50 plus teams, 75 teams, ang hirap i-align. If you have a small teams, the better. It's because you can mas mabilis yung communication. It would be easier for you as well to align, and it would be easier as well for you to refine. Kung na-identify nyo na yung mga lead measures and all, mas mabilis siya. You can do more experimentation on that. So the answer to the question is yes.
Tapos ang ano po, ang ating perennial question mula sa mga HR, paano kaya nila pwedeng i-position to sa mga boss nila na super negative agad ang tingin sa mga ganitong optimizations, kumbaga, in how things are being done? Kasi alam naman natin yan, Doc Ray, na
Oh.
merong mga business owners na tipong ang tingin nila sa mga ganyang improvements ay, sayang lang sa oras yan. Hindi naman siya directly impacting sa ating sa ating kita sa business. So paano po kaya 'yun pag ganun, Doc Ray?
Ah. Sa akin naman survival is survival is optional. So, um, ako naman from my perspective, I usually do parang meron tayong parang ang tawag doon, one pager or two pagers highlighting what it's all about and what are the testimonials. And then I would always want the leaders talaga to go through the entire 4DX workshop first before makapunta sa ano sa mga, because mas maganda talaga nagagaling siya sa taas, right? It's coming from the top. It would be easier for us to implement this. It's so hard. It will be like a huge rock for you. It could be like one of the biggest challenges for you if you want to push it to our to the senior leaders. It should be the senior leaders who should be pushing it for us. But if you want to introduce it with them, then share with them maybe a couple of slides, maybe 1 to 2 slides lang, just for them to get that excitement and let them know, okay, Ray can explain it with you.
Uy, meron tayong comment. Sabi ni JBC, 4DX is applicable even in personal life, not just corporate or business lives. I agree naman talaga. Sandali, may pasok sa mata ko. Actually, like for example, for me, I'm very process oriented. Tulad nga na sabi ko kanina, 'di ba? When it comes to planning out paano ba siya gagawin, okay ako doon. Pero sometimes I need help when it comes to the actual execution. And for me, I find it na if there is a way na pwede kong sundan, mas madali ko siya na-execute kaysa dun sa gulo-gulo, the usual na gulo-gulo. Ang hirap talaga yung execution for that. Ayan. Even in personal life, hindi lang tungkol sa trabaho, even in personal life. So tama si JBC. Ayan po. Meron pa po ba tayong mga questions or comments dyan sa ating mga ano? Yung mga nanonood sa atin right now ay mga ano na din eh, mga nakabakasyon na kaya hindi na makapag-isip. But this is actually a very, very interesting topic. Kanina pa ako nakikinig and I'm trying to figure out a way na kung paano ko ba ito po pwedeng i-share sa mga kakilala ko at kung paano rin siya po pwedeng i-implement sa opisina namin. Ayan. So, Doc Ray, if ever our audience would like to tap you to help them with 4DX, how should they get in touch with you? Madali ba pag nagpatulong sila sa'yo? Mas madali ba pag sila lang on their own? Any final words then para sa ating audience po for today?
Um,
Nasa airport ka pa rin ba?
oh, ito yung challenge. Narinig ko yung sarili ko sa dalawa. Yeah, ito muna. Nasa phone ako at this point. Am I clear, Mentorona?
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Okay. So how do you do it? For me, you learn it for the personal basis muna, so that you can appreciate it. And when you see the beauty of it, identifying what are your lead measures, because it would be easier for you to translate it in the organization. It may sound simple talaga, no? It may sound simple, but when you start trying to implement this, it's really hard.
Oo.
So even on a personal basis, it's hard. But it's really more about, it takes a lot of discipline, by the way. A lot of the leaders, when they start implementing this kasi, impatient sila masyado. They don't
Oo.
they don't wait for the results, but you have to make sure that you have at least 12 weeks of proper effective execution if it's working or not before you identify, say for instance, if you identify another lead measure, because yung mga very important dito sana sa 4DX to experiment a lot of things. It's because it can happen that even if you brainstorm with your teams, hindi pala yung tamang lead measure for you, or the lead measure is not,
Mm-mm.
it's not creating significant movement to your lag measure. And that can happen. And you have to, okay, we have to think about other things. And for me, when I applied it personally, mas mabilis kasi siya. For example, yun na lang, mga weight loss, if you want to maintain a specific weight, for example, if you want to be successful, if you want to achieve a specific goal, apply it personally so that you would appreciate it. Para when you scale it up in the organization, mas mabilis actually siya, para ikaw mismo may buy-in ka dun sa methodology.
Mm-mm.
And it's not just a management or another management framework. It's really a roadmap. And I've seen a lot of the magic of, that's why I'm so super passionate about this whenever I share this to other leaders. And even some of the leaders that I know, na talagang pinatrain pa talaga nila lahat ng mga employees nila just because they believed in it. It's because we work with this methodology before, and it's really working. Very simple but powerful din talaga yung impact niya.
Mm-mm. Okay, ayan. Doc Ray, any final words po before we end our session for today?
Can you repeat it, Mentor Rona? It's because nina ko lang yung i-increase ko yung volume.
Sige lang. Any final words before we end our episode for today?
Ang final words ko talaga, yung earlier na sinabi ko, that it's really more about complacency, right? Um, when you want to get from good to great, you don't have to be, you shouldn't be complacent. It's because when you become complacent, that is the start of your end. Kasi yun talaga yung enemy of great. So it's really more about greatness. So if you want to be great, so start making progress. Don't procrastinate, and don't be
Correct, correct.
complacent. Especially from us from HR world, no, Mentorona, that we've been doing like same thing over again. That sometimes there's a higher tendency for us to become complacent. Then 4DX is not a good place for you. I mean, that's how I want to take it as bluntly as possible.
Ayan, sige. Naku, maraming maraming salamat, Doc Ray, for sharing your wisdom with us for today. Very interesting topic talaga to si 4DX. Ang dami ko natutunan today. Mamaya nito magbabasa na naman ako tungkol sa 4DX para mas ano ko siya, mas ma-appreciate ko pa siya lalo. And then probably I'll reach out to you dahil feeling ko marami-rami akong questions nito mamaya pag mag-start na ako magbasa about it. But for now, maraming maraming salamat po, Doc Ray. Alam ko na nasa airport ka and I know you're busy as well because of the nature of our work and because of the holidays. Sabi ni Ernan Balingi, thank you so much for the wisdom. Thank you so much, Doc Ray. And to our audience, maraming maraming salamat din po for staying with us. Alam ko na lahat kayo ay naka-vacation mode na, but still, thank you for joining us for today's session. Hopefully, we can have another one by next week, but who knows, dahil nga sa medyo paano na pa New Year na, busy na rin tayo dito sa HR Cafe. So, Merry Christmas everyone. Advance Merry Christmas everyone. Happy holidays. Enjoy the rest of your pahinga. Sa mga may pasok bukas, I do hope that whatever it is that you have learned today, at least pag-isipan nyo na yan kung pwede nyo ba i-apply sa inyong mga organizations para naman pagpasok ng 2025, naku, napakaganda ng pasok sa atin at very, yung mga execution, pag-execute natin ng mga strategic plans natin ay hindi siya mababaliwala pagdating sa kalagitnaan ng taon. But for now, thank you so much everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. See you! Bye po!
Bye bye. Merry Christmas. Thank you,